Welcome to the Collaborative Culture Podcast. I am your host, Matt Houston, and this week we had an amazing speaker speak to my Topics in Entrepreneurship class, but he is also a young man whom I've known for a couple of decades. As a senior in high school at Lincoln High School, now he is a founding partner of a law firm. He spoke to my students on the importance of representation in entrepreneurship. He talked about certain business formations and the strategies for entrepreneurs to take in order to maximize their business. So I am honored to introduce you all to Byron C. Bailey, founding partner of Hailey, Bailey, and Jones PLLC. He is a man who has not only accomplished things professionally, but he has a passion of giving back. And so I am honored to have this conversation with him. I am honored to be able to have him talk to my students as I was an instructor talking to him at one point in our lives, as we've discussed earlier. But most importantly, it was great to see him impart some tools for all of us to absorb to better our businesses. So please enjoy this conversation with Byron C. Bailey.
Welcome, class. Today we have an exciting conversation that we're going to have from someone who I've known his entire adult life, I guess. I've known him since a senior in high school, in which he was a Lincoln Tiger. Now he's a TCU graduate and a graduate of Texas A&M Law School. His name is Mr. Byron C. Bailey, and he is the founding partner of Hailey, Bailey, and Jones PLLC. Byron, thank you for joining us at the Topics in Entrepreneurship class and on the Collaborative Culture Podcast. How are you doing?
I'm doing fairly well, man. How about yourself? Appreciate you inviting me.
No problem. Before we get into it, I just want you to share your background on who you are, because as distinguished as your resume depict, you really are a person of the community, someone who really cares about people, who cares about building Dallas, North Texas in general. So could you just give us a brief bio of yourself?
Man, I mean, you pretty much, that's a great synopsis. I mean, because you know who I am. But yeah, born and raised Dallas, Texas, East Dallas, Pleasant Grove area. And very meager beginnings. Graduated from Lincoln High School in South Dallas. I tell people all the time that, I think our population was probably like 95% Black, like 5% Hispanic. And then ended up, going to Texas Christian University where the population was like 95% white and maybe 3% Hispanic, 2% Black, whatever those numbers are. And I grew up in a neighborhood where I saw a lot of different people who were smart, just as smart as me, as brilliant as I was, especially like, early on, but how life would have you. They just didn't reach the height that I reached, and there was a point where I thought, and this is where you met me, Matt, which is pretty funny, and that I've never shared this with you, but you gonna know what I'm talking about. Anyway, there was a point to where I thought I was special. Right, because I went to school, I had good grades. I listened to what my mama told me, so I thought I was special. I thought, I cut, like I said, very poor background, very meager beginnings, but I made it out. So it was like, why couldn't other folks, right? And I've always been an activist for the underrepresented and the underserved, but what really transition my thought process was acknowledging the privileges that I were afforded, right? And so I think, and I don't want to go too far into that track, but I think that I believe in the value of humanity. I believe in allowing people to be human, allowing people to have grace and mercy, and acknowledging your privileges. And so for me, my privilege wasn't that I had money. But what I was able to recognize was that my privilege was that I had a loving mother, right? And a loving grandfather and a loving family. People don't look at those types of things as privileges, but extreme privilege, right? So I look back and, my mom was involved in PTA from the time I was in kindergarten, through high school, and probably would have been in college if they had PTAs in college, right? So with a mother that's strong behind you, you have no choice but to be a great student, great person. Same thing with my grandfather, took me to church every Sunday from the time I was 4 years old until, through graduation. Probably missed less than 10 Sundays of church growing up from that time span. So with that type of support, right, that's an extreme privilege that I was afforded that a lot of my peers, a lot of my friends were not afforded. And so again, and I grew up in public education. And that's the other thing. Like I'm also a person that's proud of who I am, where I come from, and my culture. And so, as a person who grew up in public education, I just want to make sure that the people who come from my same background, same culture, et cetera, are afforded the same opportunity to be without them being underrepresented or misrepresented. And so that's why everything I do kind of stems back to ensuring that my community have the knowledge and support and the representation needed to transcend whatever situation that they're in and have a goal and a focus to where they want to go. And so that's kind of been the catalyst for my whole life, kind of how I continue to operate and move. And it's gotten me here. And I'm sure I have a saying now that, if I take care of my people, they're going to take care of me. And that's been true all my life. And so I'm just going to continue to live and breathe that. And that's kind of my whole motivation to continue to go and make sure that, everybody's taken care of, everybody represented, and everybody's voice is heard. So that's pretty much my background and why I'm here today.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I do want to quickly address our first engagement, and we haven't really discussed it, but my impression was, especially when you were in Mr. Thomas's class, was that you were a very motivated person, very accomplished person that was a senior who was having senioritis, right? And so I didn't want. I'm looking back almost 20 years now, right. And remembering the tone I had with you, regretfully, because the spirit was more of encouragement to move forward, as much as instead of a more toxic approach of, hey man, just getting you placed, which I don't think it was relayed, because both you and your friend Trenton turned out to be attorneys, right? And so I don't think I halted you all, but as I grow up, as I mature, I realized that you all were definitely diamonds that deserved whatever gravitas you all felt at that time. So looking back, I probably was a bit hard on
you. Weren't no harder on me than my grandfather was, man. And anyone who see potential in somebody, right? I'm the same way on. I'm an Omega, so when I have younger brothers and Omegas, like, hey man, you got to get this stuff together, right? Or just in general, when I coach lacrosse, when I coach them boys, if I see something in you, I'm gonna be hard on you and make sure you don't ease up, or if you feel, again, kind of where I was, right? When you feel like you are that, when you become that diamond, and it's like it's easy to rest on those laurels, and it's like, nah, man, it's a big world out there, and it's more than life out there. So you may be, the diamond now, but on that next level, you're not gonna be no diamond no more. And you may be the diamond, but you gotta keep polishing that diamond. And so I think, I'm grateful for the conversation that we shared and continue to share. And so now I'm 100% grateful behind it.
Ooh, I appreciate that. I'm glad we're able to reconcile that, man, because you're someone who's doing things. Let's talk about business, entrepreneurship a bit, because this is a topics in entrepreneurship class. This is our last week. This is a 5-week course. And this last week, they are reading about different business entities, different procedures in creating certifications and identifications for their businesses. So one of the advice that they have that's listed in their textbook is to have qualified counsel to be able to register your names, know what type of registrations that you need, and so forth. What is your thoughts on entrepreneurs first, using lawyers in their profession, or speak on being an entrepreneurial lawyer, because you have your own firm? You have the lane to discuss both, and then I can flow with you and we can ask questions based on your direction.
Perfect. So our this is like my favorite topic to talk about. I've always loved business and entrepreneurship. My degree from TCU is in entrepreneurship, and so I can start with the first question about seeking counsel. It's I think people in general, have this thing where even when it comes to the medical field, where you see a symptom, you want to Google it, and now I got cancer, now you dying, you got all these, and so that kind of relates to the legal field, whereas you will see it all the time. I see it on Facebook all the time, where you don't need a lawyer to file a LLC. You can do it yourself. You don't need a lawyer to do this. You can do it yourself. Same thing. So we also practice estate planning, right? You don't need a lawyer to do it with. You can go to LegalZoom or whatever them things is and do it now. Which again, just like you don't need a doctor to diagnose you with whatever you want to be diagnosed with, if that's what you don't want, if that's what you want. But the thing is, kind of like doctors, right? Like lawyers are trained, not only trained educationally, but trained practically to issue spot. Like that's literally what we do. We issue spot. And so while while it is true, you can download a form, fill it out, and submit it and get your LLC right away. There's a lot of thought process that come behind that. So, for example, why do you want an LLC, right? I talk to a lot of folks. They be like, "Oh, I want an LLC so I can write stuff off my taxes." I'm like, "Well, your LLC ain't got nothing to do with your taxes. You don't need you don't need an LLC to write stuff on your taxes. You can be a sole proprietor and write stuff on your taxes. Your LLC is for liability. That's what the L is for, right? So that's one thing. And then you got company agreements. Especially if you are going into business with other people, like you should definitely have an attorney review the LLC, the company agreement, and all that stuff. I mean, even something as simple as selecting your principal place of business, right, or your registered agent, right, where all that stuff going. Like, yeah, you can put down addresses, but like, do you really know what that means, right? Do you understand the ramifications of selecting certain places, or you're selecting your officers, selecting the business that you do, how you operate in the business, right? And then also not just drafting the LLC and putting the LLC together, but the bylaws that go behind it, the actual accounting and stuff that go behind it. Again, after you make your LLC, there are still documents and things and reports that you have to file to the IRS and or the comptroller's office. That if you just go online without seeking counsel, you'll fill it out, and now you look up and your LLC getting shut down. You getting all these letters or not even receiving them because you didn't put a random address on there. You didn't put your house, and you ain't checked that mail, and then you get these letters. You don't know what you're reading. I think all of that is important. And then also, just the counsel of, you have an LLC, but you ain't have nobody to tell you, you need a separate bank account, right, for all that stuff. And then the commingle them fund, because if you get an LLC and you use the same bank account, I mean, that LLC is worthless because they got something called Pearson and corporate veil, which I'm pretty sure y'all familiar about. But yeah, I think seeking counsel on major decisions like that, a lot of decisions, man. Anything commercial, anything dealing with business, and you signing your name, agreeing to something, like you should have an attorney review it. I get so many calls from people who want me to be a miracle worker after they've made a bad decision on something because they were too careless, or too not I won't say careless, but just not prudent enough to get the attorney on the front end, right? I have friends who start these businesses and they don't look at contracts. They get in commercial contracts, and they now, because this dude didn't want to change a ceiling fan or something, they want to get out the commercial lease. Like, well, you signed a commercial lease and it's different from a residential lease, or I got a lot of friends who kind of call me and say, oh, I didn't get insurance on this LLC, I'm being sued now. Can you represent me? I'm like, well, that's gonna be a $20,000 return off top. Do you got money to do that, right? Whereas you could have just got the insurance up front, but a lot of people don't want to pay for the insurance premium and all that stuff. But you could have got the insurance up front because things happen, and when things happen, you can have the insurance company cover it all. It's little things like that. And so in an effort to cut corners in the beginning, you end up losing a lot of money at the end. Same with again, going back to estate planning. A lot of people go on LegalZoom and they draft these wills and stuff, and then when it's time to probate their will, like people left out, items are left out, things are going to intestacy. They might lose the will. It might not be done ceremonially correct. So the will is invalid based on that alone. So there's so many little issues that the layperson can't really recognize, that it's imperative for a business owner to be more prudent on the front end and seeking that counsel, as opposed to trying to just hire a litigator to try to clean up the mess. I think it's more prudent to do it on the front end.
That's good. That's some sound advice. And quite honestly, I can turn off this video now, because that's probably the story, the lesson that everyone should get. You did question one. I say that as an entrepreneur because I experienced, submitting things myself, or being able to be a quote unquote hustler in high school, and then going to college and say, well, I'm smart enough to fill these reports. But then all of a sudden, when they're K-9s or when they're quarterly statements that we're not accustomed to completing because we don't have the infrastructure to do so, or the fact that that's just not in our job. Like, our job is to get the money, or to do the work. We don't have anyone that is guiding us in our business formation. Thank you for that. I do want to ask you quickly on different types of businesses and what you typically run across based on the type of entrepreneur that you see. Do you see more sole proprietorships? Do you see more LLCs? Do you even get into S corps and C corps, or what do you see?
Yeah, I mean, I see more folks. If I see an LLC, if I see a business, it's going to be an LLC, or if it's not an LLC, I kind of push them toward the LLC. I really haven't. I'm newer to the entrepreneurial aspect of having my own law firm, so I haven't seen too many C corps, and S corps is more so a tax designation, excuse me. And so I may have seen those, but it more so falls up under the LLC environment. And so if I do see a sole proprietor, it's more so about getting them to convert to an LLC for those protectionary reasons.
Gotcha. And talk to us a little bit about the differences between those different designations.
Yeah, so sole proprietor is, lemonade stand, right? I ain't got no paperwork. I just want to make some money real quick. And I just, put out a lemonade stand, start making some money. The thing is, it's cool to make that money, and you can make that money and you can run a business that way. However, your assets are associated with the business. So, let's say you try to think of, very random example, using the lemonade stand example. Let's say you're selling lemonade and, you get a bad batch of lemons, right? And people start getting sick off your lemons and they want to sue you. Well, they're not suing your lemonade stand business. They're suing you because, your lemonade stand business and you is one and the same. One and the same. Right. And so then you have, and the other ones, the LLC is more so, it's the broader entity to form. So you're gonna see a lot more LLCs than C corps is more so when you seeking funding, right? Like you trying to go get big money,
big capital, like venture funds and things.
Right. That's when you're gonna try to put that stuff together. So you're gonna see LLC again. So with the LLC aspect of it, LLCs are just it's liability, right? It's liability. So you got your name, you got your person, and then you have your business. So again, if you buying lemons, as under, Byron's lemonade stand, and people get sick, well, they can sue you, but you won't have no liability, like the one had a liability. So you can get out of that with like a summary judgment, which essentially states that as a matter of law, you are not responsible. But with the LLC, but they can sue the LLC, right? So the LLC would have that, will get the brunt of the negligence claim, or whatever the lawsuit claim would be. So it wouldn't be your person, it would be the LLC. And why that is important is because different, in LLC, again, it's all about asset protection. So you can have an LLC that manages the LLC or that holds an LLC to where there might be little to no money in the LLC that's being sued, but all the money is in, a holding LLC. But the holding LLC, is not selling lemonades. The holding LLC did not purchase the lemons, right? The holding LLC just owns that. And so it would be, again, separate. It would be like you as an individual owning the LLC. You as an individual didn't buy those lemons or sell their lemonade. The business did. And so with the holding LLC, you can do it that way. And that's what I really enjoy doing a lot of, is going back to the estate planning piece, is how can we protect our assets from from liability and putting things in LLC is the way to do that.
Gotcha. Thank you for that. That was a really succinct answer for the LLC discussion. I want to talk quickly, and then if y'all have questions, please feel free to write them down. I'll give you all time to ask a lawyer, if you will. Let's talk about partnerships and joint ventures a little bit, because a lot of people like to say they're doing partners with other businesses when that's not necessarily the case.
Correct.
Could you talk to us a little bit about the importance of differentiating that?
I'm gonna go a little step back and say, I'm gonna talk to you about the importance of using the language, right?
There you go.
Of partners, right? And so that's one thing you really got to be wary of, because if you're holding yourself out as a partner, then you are assuming the liability of your partner, and so oftentimes it's best to do the joint venture route where, hey, I got my business, you got your business, there's a project out here, we can again form another LLC together on that to work on that joint venture. And that's essentially what a joint venture is. It's two separate businesses coming together, starting another LLC or business for a specific project, to where if there is an issue or a liability or a liability that occurs during that joint venture, your business or the person that you're working with business is not affected, but the only thing that is affected is that joint venture LLC. And I think that's what you got to kind of lean more so towards, is not coming together and then merging our businesses together and creating a partnership that way, but more so going out and say, hey, my company owns this amount of stocks in this business, your company owns this amount of stock in this business, and this business is made for this specific reason. And so and you can limit the liability to this project is for, this business is for this specific project, and then after this project, we can dissolve it, we can move around, do whatever, and then you can and that would be definitely more important to the company agreements, bylaws, and all that good stuff as well to form those types of entities.
Nice. That also sounds like you're mitigating and managing risks also.
Yes.
Right. Because especially if you establish a third LLC to do the task of this joint venture, you can create a finite amount of time to do this. Whether if we know it's a 10-year project, we can say, hey, in this project, the two of us are going to work for this amount of time on this particular thing and create a business of it. If it doesn't work, you cut it off. You can still maintain your personal or your individual LLC's assets. So that's really sound advice.
That's exactly true. But to talk more about partnerships, and I'm gonna say, because as a lawyer, I gotta use words have meaning, so I'm trying to think about the right way to say it. But let's talk about going into, because I have a partnership with I'm in a partnership with my two partners, and I like to talk about the idea of, and I'm talking about just in general, the idea of partnerships and leveraging, right? So trying to think of an example, because I was recently talking to someone about that, just popped in my mind. So I have a friend, right, who I was talking with, and she's going through some things right now, and she was like, hey, I got these folks who want to invest money in my business, so I can run the business, and they'll be a partner, right? They'll be a silent partner. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, okay, is that money invested worth giving up that equity? Mm-hmm. Right. So yeah, you may have a partner that will give you the surplus of, let's just say for easy numbers, $100,000, right? But they're not giving it up. They're not giving you that for free. They want equity with that. So if that $100,000, right, even though you're the brain and you're the worker behind it, but you broke, is it worth receiving that $100,000 in equity to get you started, to give up, 50% or whatever the percentages of your business, right? Whereas you could, grind until you get to the point to where you can leverage, i.e., take out a loan, and say, you know what, I'm instead of giving up equity, I'm gonna go into $100,000 in debt, which sounds expensive, right? If you never had that money initially, but how I also advise people, advise people is y'all are students right now. People take out $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 in school loans without batting an eye, right? Without knowing exactly what you want to do. You just, hey, this is what we do. We just gonna take out this money and pay it back someday. But it baffles me when people have a great vision, a grand vision of what they want to do, got a business plan on how they want to do it. But when it comes to taking out the same amount of money or just a loan to do that, they're apprehensive of doing it, and so I'm where I am to like caution anyone who's considering, unless it just makes a whole lot of sense and the value is being more value than just money is being brought to it, or you just cannot, consider use the leverage. I genuinely caution people to consider leverage as opposed to giving up equity. And there's another point I wanted to make on that, because again, I look at it as I'm a homeowner, right? Let's say I bought a house for $300,000, right? That's a loan. That's a $300,000 loan, right? But so long as I can make the mortgage payment, whatever that mortgage payment is, I'm good. And if you have a business plan and you're working that business plan, you should have the projections of when you should become profitable, when you should be making money. And so the mindset should be, hey, I'm gonna be making these monthly payments for 2 years, right? But by the time I hit 2 years, now I got the money. That $100,000 investment has now, gave me a return, 2-3x. And if I want to, I can pay it all off, or I can just keep making these payments, right? And leveraging that business credit to build more business credit to get more money, right? And I learned that just like from buying a home, it's like the power of leverage and using other people's money. I initially was only looking at it in real estate, but now being an entrepreneur myself, I am still seeing that value, right? To where I can take out, let's say a $10,000, $20,000 loan, right? And get let's say I want to get a billboard or invest in whatever marketing, right? And I do personal injury as well. So if I take out a $20,000 loan, invest in $20,000 in marketing, and I get one car wreck case that pays me, $20,000, that was a great investment, and that's just that one business. But again, I'm not gonna pay it all back because cash is king. I'm sure y'all know that too. So you never want to, utilize your own cash if you don't have to. But if you got an opportunity to leverage, I leverage everything. I finance everything. I tell people all the time, I finance everything. But obviously you got to be wary of that with the interest rates. But even with that, if you understand finance, you can, balance transfer, 0 APR, move it, consolidate, whatever you need to consolidate, get a new interest rate. Like there's ways to understand the game. I think finance is just so I'm gonna just say slept on when it comes to entrepreneurship, because you can really fund the business and the life that you want, if you manage your finances prudently.
So you said a lot of nuggets that I want to touch base on. One,
Yes,
all money is not good money.
All money not good.
That's the equity piece. As an entrepreneur myself, I've dealt with having to make a decision on, do I want to get well, one, I need cash because bills need to get paid or something needs to get produced so that I can make a product.
Right.
Do I want to give our percentage of my company up? If so, how much? And if so, and how much to who? Because all of those things matter. Because if a person is giving you $10,000 for 20% of your business, that's
Right.
not worth it, especially if they feel they're 20% owner of your dream. And so
Right.
even though they're not a majority stake owner or they can't make decisions, they can cause you headaches because they're now in bed with you, right?
Exactly.
And if you're seeking out 10% for just $20,000, that shows that you're not really planning in your business space because you have other opportunities like creating loans or other financial avenues, something that you also touch base on.
Yeah.
Finance industry is the untapped interpretive market, right? It's not linear, it's situational, and it takes an entrepreneur to be able to navigate that. So that's another thing you said. In between those things that you said there, you were also talking about the importance of being able to just have a solid business plan to know and convince investors, look, this is what we're doing in the next 3 to 5 years. Anyone who is investing in money isn't looking for money the next day anyway. They
Right.
either have liquid, they have capital that they can borrow and lend for a higher yield than if they put it in the bank account or
Right.
things of that nature. Or some
Right.
people just truly love to invest in entrepreneurs because they like that thrill. They were a former entrepreneur. They know they could potentially get a 10, 15, 20x on a sure bet rather than 0.5% or 1% on something sure.
Right.
You just said a lot of stuff there, and I want to thank you for that. I have one last question, and I'm going to open it up to the students. You talk a lot about the process of building a business. You've talked about how you can protect it. You talked about how you can raise money, and you even discussed, you had a little finance course in there too about the importance of assets. Let's talk about legacy. Why is entrepreneurship important from a legacy perspective?
Man, so that's beautiful. And I'm gonna get to that. I kind of want to touch back on something that you said that like from the last question, like all money ain't good money, but some money is worth it, right? So I'm thinking about like if you have someone who's investing in you and want to put some money into you, and they have a knowledge and skill base behind it, or the network, right, to fuel your engine, that may be worth it, right? So, and I'm thinking about like Shark Tank, right? A lot of folks go on Shark Tank. I mean, they might not need the money that they're seeking, but I mean, if Mark Cuban's going to give me $1 million for 20%, and he's Mark Cuban, I mean, that 20% might be worth it because I'm gonna be making way more money, right? Because Mark Cuban.
Exposure and everything, right? His vehicle of distribution of product, all of that can play a role in your business success.
Exactly. Similarly, and so I kind of want to, because I know it can seem a bit overwhelming to hear all these ideas and all this knowledge, because you might not know the knowledge, have the knowledge, because I don't have the knowledge, right? But another mantra I live by is I pay professional people to do professional things, right? So I'm not a marketer, I'm a lawyer. I'm a business owner, but if I got a friend or if I see a business that what they do is they specialize in SEO or they specialize in X, Y, and Z, I'm gonna invest in that because I can't do it. You the professional in that realm, I'm gonna do that. I need an office manager, a project manager. If I need all the types of things. I mean, it goes back to leveraging as well, right? And figuring out what's the best return on your life. But the main point that I kind of want to start with before I got here is what entrepreneurship is. And I think media, right, and maybe even just like, 90s or whatever, has kind of distorted what I believe entrepreneurship is. And so I truly believe that entrepreneurship is essentially just lifestyle design. However you want to live your life, that's what you're doing as an entrepreneur, right? And so you're going to have to put together the plan, the systems and processes to design the life that you want to live. You don't have to be, I want to make as much money as I possibly can. It could be something as simple as, like for me, I want to be able to take my son to school in the morning and pick him up and sustain the lifestyle that I have. I probably couldn't do that if I was working for somebody else, right? I just want to be able to do important tasks when they're due, as opposed to being subject to someone else's authority as to what I should be doing with my time. And so it's all about that lifestyle design, which I can kind of, not the smoothest transition, but can kind of segue to the legacy piece. And for me is, again, having control of my time, right? So going back to just using my son as an example, right? If I'm working at these law firms and I'm forced to work their hours and bill the amount of hours that they want me to bill, right? There are going to be a lot of things that I'm just going to miss because I'm either working or I'm too tired. Whereas for me, the reason why I chose the life that I'm living now, the design of life that I'm living now, is every person I meet, everywhere I go, is now a potential client, right? So everything I do is now always worth my time. I'm a brand everywhere I go. And that's the beauty of entrepreneurship. And that's what I lost a lot of when I was working in a firm. It was, hey, I'm a cog in the machine. That's my job. I do it. Now I'm in a space to where everything I do again is, building my brand, is marketing, is, and it's also genuinely helping people how I'm able to do that. And so it gives me the autonomy to move around. And again, just going back to legacy, to see my son whenever I want to see it, but also to teach him the same things, right? And then it's also going to, I'm sure somewhere down the line, I haven't written this plan out, but he might not necessarily be a lawyer, but I want him to be an entrepreneur as well, to build his own thing, and/or I could have other ventures. Maybe I delve more so into real estate with some of my maybe I have my firm gets big enough to where I'm branching out. I'm buying office spaces throughout the state, throughout the country, and maybe my son is the one who's running the real estate arm of my real estate arm of my law firm, or the marketing arm, whatever he want to do, right? Like I'll have that position, kind of like, hey, like the whole Bronny James, LeBron James thing. Like, hey, yeah, that's legacy. Like I am a billionaire basketball player, one of the greatest to ever do it. I have that influence. The NBA needs me, I've built my brand to where I can do those type of things for my legacy, right? And I got another son coming in a couple years too, and guess what? It's gonna be the same thing, because y'all want to see my face. And so I think all of that is valuable, and I'm grateful for it. But I'm also going back to legacy again. I'm an estate planning attorney as well. I now know how to do that. I understand the value of business owners, getting their estate plan, getting their affairs in order, be it through asset protection and/or the distribution of their assets. When they pass on, make sure that you have a proper plan in place and all that good stuff. I mean, I could talk about estate planning in depth, because I am a beneficiary of my grandfather's house. And I'm a big beneficiary of his, and he was an entrepreneur as well, not in his later life, but he was an entrepreneur. And he had the foresight to see that, his kids, which is like my mom and her siblings, right? They didn't have the sophistication to truly appreciate what an asset such as property is. And so it would be more prudent for him to pass through his grandson, who, college graduate and lawyer. He trusted I would make more prudent decisions with the property, and and still manage to be able to take care of my family in a way that they need to be taken care of with his asset. And so I'm a legacy. I'm big on legacy as well. Big on legacy, big on culture, big on entrepreneurship, big on being true to yourself and finding what makes you happy. And that's just kind of where I truly am now. And I'm excited to continue this journey to be able to be a not just a harbinger, but an example of lifestyle design and designing life that you want to have and going for your goals and having goals and being happy and true to what you want to do. And so that's part of the legacy I want to leave, and part of, again, I want to help other people leave that same legacy or whatever legacy they want. I just want them to be thinking of that legacy because I think it's important for just culture and history. You're more than capable. Whatever the business you want to start, whatever the lifestyle you want to design, you're more than capable. You just have to be intentional. You're in a class. You have to be students. Trust. I tell people all the time, trust your dopeness. You know what you're good at. I was talking to some kids in the mentorship program. I believe that everyone has a skill set to which they know that they're like elite, right? And it may not be, it may not be singing, it may not be math, it may not be reading, it may be something as trivial as crochet braiding. It could be, and when I was talking to the kids, I'm just gonna use this example. I was like, you might know how to fight better than a lot of people, right? I think everyone has a skill set that's elite. And how you got, I charge people to, one, identify what their skill set is, two, identify how you got that skill set, so you can then, three, kind of apply it to like what passion that you have. And when you figure out what that passion is, you can apply the same learning tactics that you learn to master the skill set that may not be profitable for you right now. You could probably just apply it to that and make that profitable, or not. I'm sorry, let me not say profitable. To fuel the life that you desire, right? Or you can just apply the skill sets that you've learned to learn those skill sets and do what you're passionate about and apply that same learning, I guess pedagogy, I should say, to learn what you want to learn and do that. I also believe that if you've worked in any space, particular space, for at least 5 years, maybe sooner as 3, but I'm gonna say at least 5 years, you have skill, especially if you work for companies that been around for a long time. You have a skill set and a knowledge base that you're not appreciating, right? I have friends that work for EY, they work for Toyota, they work for all these major corporations, and they're in these cog, these machine, these gear-based roles, to which it's not just gear-based roles. Like you're doing very valuable things, very skill-based, marketable, talented things that if you took what you've learned from those places and applied it to design your own lifestyle, you will have a buyer, right? If you are again, let's just say, and you don't even gotta do, let's say you are an accountant, right? And you've been working at one of the top firms or just at any firm, right? You say, hey, I was an accountant for 5 years at, KPMG, right? And and you say, what, small business, I want to help you with your bookkeeping and taxes. You might not even know nothing about bookkeeping and taxes, but I'm gonna tell you what, you know more about bookkeeping and taxes than the person you see on Facebook with their own photo.
That's very true.
You know what I'm saying? So if they have the confidence, and I'm gonna just say audacity, right, to start their own bookkeeping, tax, and make pretty good money doing it, why don't you have that same temerity? And so again, I don't know what all you all have done in y'all's past and what you're gonna do in your future. But anytime, and maybe, again, entrepreneurship is lifestyle design. So maybe working in your space, in your job, right? That's the lifestyle that you want to design. There are a lot of, executives that love the life that they built through their companies, right? A lot of employees that love the life that they built through their companies. But I knew the life that I wanted to lead. I would just have to go out on my own to do it. And I'm excited to do so. And I just take it as it's part of the journey. Just as with all things, there are ups, there are downs, there's learning curves, there's stress, but all those things are going to happen in life. Why not be the person? Why not choose for them to happen in the manner, in the way in which you would desire for them to happen? That's kind of my whole spiel on that part.
No, that's good. That's a great way to end. I want to give a quick word for a concept of entrepreneurship that you described earlier.
Okay.
In terms of, instead of working for a business, you're able to either use resources to buy companies and things of that nature to manage. It's called acquisition entrepreneurship. That's a new trend that's happening, where people who are working in corporate structures, who realize they're a part of the cog, and that they're making maybe $120,000, $130,000 a year for someone else who's making probably 5 to 10 times that for someone else.
Right.
They are going into private equity, building up those firms and just rolling up companies. So they may buy 6 or 7 insurance firms or
Right.
something that has some systems that they can manage and can be more profitable there than just working at a corporate space. So that's an option. And so, but
similar to that, real quick, similar to that, right? Like I'm starting to see in some of the podcasts and things that that I listen and watch. I'm starting to see, baby boomers, entrepreneurs are retiring.
Yeah, 70%. Like, I mean, it's a huge number, and they need a nest egg.
Right.
And that nest egg is the purchase of the sale of their business.
Right.
So
that's something to consider as well. Lifestyle design.
Yeah, that's good, man. That was good. That's going to be one of the topics of this one of the main tags, lifestyle entrepreneurship, because I believe that is the trend, identifying your quality of life and then building businesses that will align with that. So,
yes, sir.
Byron, thank you. If they need to contact you, or if the people in podcast world need to contact you, how do they do that?
You can add me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Byron C. Bailey. You can follow me on Instagram, again, Byron C. Bailey. Email me, byronc.bailey @gmail.com. I think with those you can get to me, and then if we need to go more in depth and more offline, then we'll build that conversation and we can go from there.
Yeah, Byron, thank you for carving out time. Thank you for all that you're doing, not only in your profession, but what you do for the community as a whole. Thank you.
Of course, man. Appreciate it. Same thoughts for you. Appreciate all you do too.